podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for frame rate is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This episode of Frame Rate is brought to you by Shutterstock.com. With over 900,000 high-quality video clips, Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. For 30% off your new account, go to Shutterstock.com and use offer code FRAMERATE4.
You'll have the option of choosing from several of our completely unwarranted ripoffs, including internet speeds up to 200 times slower than Korea at twice the price, TV packages with over 500 channels, 90% of which you can't view, and we guarantee a plethora of hidden fees. Then, our barely trained technicians will come to install your services somewhere between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. Knock once while you're in the shower, and promptly leave. And once we do finally get your service up and running, it'll be down and limping within 3 hours. Indefinitely. Why, you ask? Simple. We are part of what is called an oligopoly. It's like a monopoly, only legal. See, in closed-door meetings with 4 or 5 of the other major providers, we've secretly agreed not to have differing prices, allowing us to completely eliminate any competition and collectively raise our prices to optimum bag levels.
Frame Rate. It's Frame Rate episode 118. I'm Tom Merritt.
Howdy, folks. I'm Brian Brushwood. Oh, and then that's me leaving the video on. Now I'm over here, and now I'm over here. Ha-ha! Smooth like butter, Tom, just like we did in rehearsal.
Yep,
of course, I did that on purpose because I wanted to tell everyone that is from Extremely Decent Films called The First Honest Cable Company. And actually, it's much, much funnier if you watch it from the beginning, but we couldn't air from the beginning.
Insulted by swear words. I agree. It is much, much funny. Yeah.
Correct.
All of your frustrations with cable companies will be explained and touted as features in this video. Yeah, several people in the chat room are like, hey, that's my cable company.
Yeah, it's like that blank slate thing. It's that it's the Forer effect, like with astrology. Like I get the sensation that you're unhappy with your cable company, like you feel like they charge too much and their service isn't very good. Am I onto something here? We doing a psychic vibe?
Yeah, I'm getting that. I'm feeling it. Yes, and that's pretty much universally true. At least in the United States.
I'm actually getting another psychic vibe that there's a pretty rotten.
What are you feeling?
It's the first big story.
This just in, the big story.
You're wrong. That's not where I was going.
Oh, really?
Actually, yes, it is where I was going because I'm very excited about Aereo. We have 2 Aereo stories today. One over the weekend, a report from CNET and several other outlets. I think the Wall Street Journal originated it, saying that Aereo, the Barry Diller-backed enterprise that allows you to view broadcast television stations over the internet because they lease you a single dime-sized antenna that is all yours and no one else's, and they're fighting this out in court right now, apparently has been talking with AT&T and Dish Network about partnerships.
Man, the more I hear like Dish and their devil may care, what does it matter? We've got nothing to lose. Let's take crazy risks. It just makes me happier and happier.
Yeah, there's AT&T obviously would be in on it because they're kind of the outsider. They're an ISP. They might bundle it in, say, hey, come on, buy our AT&T Uverse service and we'll bundle in Aereo for you. It could be something like that where you're getting TV with your internet. With Dish, it would just be like, we're sick of everyone who provides us content.
Yes, exactly. Like, we want to set fire to as many bridges as we can. Let's go.
Meanwhile, of course, Fox, CBS, NBC, ABC, PBS, and the CW, all actually that's just a partial list, all suing Aereo in court over this. And the United States Second Circuit Court of Appeals rejected an appeal from TV networks against Aereo by a 2-to-1 vote, concluding that Aereo's system does not infringe the broadcaster's copyrights. Broadcasters argued that unlike Cablevision, Aereo lacked the proper license to operate, but the court ruled that license doesn't matter. Here's Judge Christopher Droney. He says it is beyond dispute that the transmission of a broadcast television program received by an individual's rooftop antenna to the TV in his living room is private because only that individual can receive the transmission from that antenna, ensuring that the potential audience of the transmission is only one person. Plaintiffs, that'd be the broadcast networks, have presented no reason why the results should be any different when that rooftop antenna is rented from Aereo and its signals transmitted over the internet. It remains the case that only one person can receive that antenna's transmissions.
Dude, it's pretty open and shut, but the question is, like, is it over now? Like, how many times can they appeal to an even higher court? Or is, what's, at this point, is their gameplay just to keep stuff tied up? Because it sounds like Aereo's now cleared to just go running around naked.
Yeah, no, this is not over yet. As you might have noticed, it was a 2-1 decision. They can possibly get the United States Second Circuit Court of Appeals to convene in full. I believe there are 9 members of that circuit court. Or they could go to the Supreme Court and say, we need the Supreme Court to rule on this. So there's a couple more options for the broadcast networks. They are far from done yet. But it's 2 victories in a row now for Aereo. And granted, 2-1, you had a pretty sharp dissent in this, but you also have a pretty sharp consensus opinion saying you haven't done anything to show that this is illegal.
It's so weird because, like, I'm happy for Aereo, right? And I'm happy for more choice for consumers, and I'm happy that it looks like they're going to win this battle and be allowed to exist as a service. I'm annoyed that it took so much for them to do what the letter of the law specifically says they're allowed to, and that they still got sued. And now we're cheering because we're happy because, like, hey, a service who came up with a ridiculous Rube Goldberg way to approximate an effect that we want without overstepping the ridiculous laws didn't get sued out of existence. Hooray! I mean, it's
Are you indicting our system of justice, Brian?
Yes, I am. You hear that? I'm going to serve papers on them. I'm going to hold them in contempt.
Court. You should sue them.
No,
I know what you mean, right? It seems like this should be on its face an open and shut situation, but if the law actually has accommodations for that. It's called prima facie, where the judge can say, no, you absolutely have no case. We're not going to try this. And they throw it out. So there obviously is enough doubt here to take it to trial legally. But it does seem sad that every time we have something innovative like this, it just has to wade through court. We'll get to that regarding Viacom and YouTube, which you may have forgotten is still slogging through court. That one dates back to before Google bought YouTube.
Like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was still done. I mean, I had the impression that it was settled. Oh my God.
But let's go to a more hopeful big story.
Stop everything. It's another big story.
What is HBO up to? All right.
They got mischief in their eyes. I look over, they got a little twinkle. Okay. And they're sort of like everything they say now, I just assume, like, it's not written in the article, but I just assume it's like wink after every single comment they make now.
I'm going to mention the lesser of these 2 stories first, and that's that at a Harvard Law School sports law symposium, HBO Sports president Ken Hirschman said that, by the end of this year, we're going to bring real-time sports to HBO Go. So you'll be able to watch live sports on HBO Go. Now, when contacted by The Verge, HBO Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs Jeff Kusan said, "We're always exploring ways to enhance HBO Go, but we have no immediate plans to offer live boxing on the platform." And boxing is the live sport on HBO. So
sure.
If they aren't doing boxing by the end of the year, what does it mean?
Wait a minute. Maybe it means they're finally taking, like, world champion cornhole tournaments or horseshoes or some other – maybe it's a new sport, Tom. Maybe it's not boxing. Doesn't always have to be boxing.
It may very well mean that. You may very well be right. But even weirder is HBO programming president Michael Lombardo speaking to Entertainment Weekly this weekend about Game of Thrones, which premiered on Sunday. They asked Michael, said, what do you think about all this piracy? And remember, we had the director back, a director of one of the episodes back in Australia saying, like, yeah, I think it's actually, it's not that bad of a thing. It sort of shows how popular. And then he had to backtrack and backpedal. Well, Lombardo said, we consider it a compliment.
Yeah, well, and he qualifies it. You could tell, like, there's something about HBO's position right now that frees them to say, yes, of course we go after pirates. Of course we shut down pirate sites. Of course, we do takedown notices. We do all the things that we do because we don't like piracy. However, we're also aware that piracy is happening, and we're very aware that it's our pricing model, our premium service, the fact that you can't get it any other way. They don't say that that's what creates a piracy, but they're very aware. And there's a certain amount of notoriety that comes with it. It's kind of cool, to be honest, that he says things like, I probably shouldn't say this, but it's kind of a compliment to be the most pirated thing.
I probably shouldn't be saying this, but it is a compliment of sorts. The demand is there, and it certainly didn't negatively impact the DVD sales. That is the opposite of what every other industry person has been saying since the internet was invented, which is that piracy undermined my sales. I would have sold a copy of the DVD for every one of those episodes. He just said, didn't hurt anything. And granted, you're absolutely right, Brian. He goes on to say, we are firmly anti-piracy. We don't think that you should be going and do that. But he takes a better line than saying he says, we're not going to send the Game of Thrones police out. He says, I just worry that those copies they're downloading aren't going to be very good.
Now, here's what's weird. Yes. Oh, absolutely. Now, how much of this is them being gregarious just because they're just slaughtering the competition and doing just extraordinarily well that they can afford to play, like they're sitting on a tremendous amount of brand value and capital. And you could almost forgive them if they wanted to spend it to try to stop down piracy or whatever. But maybe they're just making so much freaking money that they can afford to be the gregarious uncle who's just like, whatever. What can you do? Pirates, right?
I got two theories.
After them.
I got one crazy theory, and I've got one reasonable theory. Which one you want to hear first?
Let me hear the crazy one first, because I have a crazy theory I'd like to submit as well.
The crazy theory is based on the fact that we know that the impediment in the United States and many other markets to HBO Go being available a la carte, so that I as an internet subscriber could just buy it and stream it, is that they get so much free publicity from the cable companies they work with. I called today to cancel Showtime off of DirecTV, and they said, what if we bundle in Showtime and Stars at a lower rate for 6 months? And I was like, no, thank you. But that's the kind of thing that all the cable companies and satellite companies do, is they push, they promote. What if HBO is saying, maybe if we just go out and say crazy things on the internet, that'll end up being better promotion and a lower cost, and then we could go HBO Go a la carte.
Not crazy enough. Not crazy enough. I think you're right that they do that. Maybe it's an attitude thing that they're liking the publicity and notoriety that comes with their fast and loose responses. Try this on for size, Tom.
All right.
Maybe, just maybe, they're aware that. So first of all, let's say it's a done deal internally. They have a secret date that they're going to make HBO Go available a la carte. Who would your audience be to buy HBO a la carte? It's the same people who are currently paying for or currently pirating all your stuff. So maybe if you started to say things that indicate, look, man, I get it. You don't want to pay for the big old fat cat cable jerks. But then that way you build up a lot of credibility with that audience. So when you do release HBO Go, everyone's just like, they become like the Steam of cable companies where just everyone instantly likes them because they're doing right by you.
I think that's actually not crazy. That's incredibly reasonable. And my reasonable theory, it kind of fits along with that, which is they are testing things. They're testing reactions. They're going out and for zero cost saying, what happens when we say this? What reactions do we get internally from our internal clients like the cable companies, and what reactions do we get externally from consumers? Things like the live sports is a perfect example of that. So I think you're right. I think they're saying, hey, you know what? You know what's really expensive? Fighting people in court. You know what's not expensive? Sowing a fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Yeah. Take a page from the troll playbook. Let's do it.
Dude, masterful work, HBO. For those about to troll, we salute you.
All right, let's go to yet another big story.
Tuck in your bootstraps. It's yet another big story.
Oh, yeah. TechDirt has a very expansive and comprehensive explanation of what's going on with YouTube and Viacom. It's been about a year since the Second Circuit Court of Appeals sent the Viacom YouTube case back to district court. At the time, the original district court ruling which said YouTube was protected by DMCA safe harbor, was a good ruling, well-reasoned, and argued by the court. In contrast, the appeals court ruling dipped into troubling waters. The district court said that YouTube needed specific knowledge of infringing works rather than general knowledge that some works were infringing. And on Friday, the latest set of filings in the case back at district court were revealed, and it's kind of a desperate move, it sounds like, on Viacom's part. They're basically saying, okay, we know the court said when they sent this back to district that we had to show specific uses. And our example of a specific use is a former employee of YouTube saying, well, I knew there were infringing things out there.
Oh, so they got one quote during one testimony or something to act like that's what they're hiding behind?
Yeah. And Viacom says our other specific example is willful blindness, that they knew that there were infringing things and they just chose to remain blind and turn away from them. And Google's like, neither one of those are specific. The court says you have to show specific clips in the lawsuit, and you're not doing it. YouTube said in its response, Viacom does not even try to make the showing of clip-specific knowledge required by the second court's ruling. It instead reverses course and claims that it is YouTube's burden to affirmatively establish its lack of knowledge as to each specific clip in suit. Viacom's novel burden-shifting argument is wrong. It is contrary to the second court's decision, all the case law, and the structure of the DMCA itself.
So this is a case where it's like, the fish is almost reeled into the boat and it's like, it's got nothing to lose. Just flail about wildly and hope something happens, I guess.
I almost feel like it's the guy who knows he doesn't have a good shot on the person he wants to hit. And so he's just starting to shoot wildly. And if he hits a spectator, he don't care. He's just hoping because I mean, if Viacom were to make this argument, it would essentially end the safe harbor for everyone.
Yeah,
because you would have to prove that you didn't know anything about any infringing use, and so all anybody would ever have to bring is like there was an infringing use, and they can't prove they didn't know about it.
Right. Well, it makes it to where it's a total witch hunt, where anything that's up anywhere. Yeah. I mean, then all of a sudden you're in a position where theoretically you could set up traps, in hit scenarios where you upload or help upload something and then, verify and document it and then, and put it on them to try to prove that they wouldn't. I mean, it seems like this thing's finally going to wind down and shut the hell up, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the other example is that willful blindness thing. There's a part of the DMCA that says you have no duty to monitor. All you have to do is react. That's the way it's one of the few blessings of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act is you don't have to sit there and monitor everything that comes through. All you have to do is if someone points it out, you have to react to it. And Viacom is trying to argue that while there's officially no duty to monitor, if you don't monitor and they can show there were infringing works, then you are guilty of willful blindness. So in other words, there is a duty to monitor, even though the law says there isn't. I mean,
right.
They're just, like you say, they're kind of out arguments.
Do you hear that, Viacom? Just give it up. Throw in the towel. Be done with it. Just sit down and hug it out with YouTube.
I mean, seriously. You've got your clips on YouTube now.
Yeah.
Isn't there? Come on. This is your chance to gracefully exit.
Well, and that was one of the things that was mentioned in this article was that a lot of the clips were uploaded by Viacom, and they were unable to verify that the clips that they were saying were pirate clips were any different from the ones that were uploaded by Viacom. So, it changes things.
But you know what, Brian Brushwood? We should take a break and welcome our brand new sponsor to Frame Rate, Shutterstock.com. At Shutterstock, you'll find the perfect image or video for your next creative project, whether it's for your website, maybe some kind of advertisement, you're working on a video and you need some stock footage, any other type of product, you can choose from over 900,000 high-quality stock video clips, some in 2D, some in 3D, some are animation, some are motion graphics. They have clips in a bunch of different digital formats. If you're like, well, I need a specific format, check them out. Most come in HD, too. Shutterstock sources its video clips from around the world. So you got them from all over the globe. You're not going to be like, well, these are all going to come from Petaluma. No, well, they're not even in Petaluma. They're all over the world. And they put them at your fingertips. A lot of contributors to Shutterstock are professional filmmakers and animators. And here's what I love about Shutterstock is they review each video individually for content and quality before they add it to its library. So you know they're adding over 10,000 video clips each week, and they're all good because they've all been looked at. Every time you visit, you're going to find something new. They give you the video content you need for your creative projects. Take them to the next level, and it's super easy. This is the other thing I love about Shutterstock is their search tool. You can search, you can drill down by category, by resolution, by contributor, and more. And you may have heard about Lightbox for Shutterstock Images. They have clip boxes for footage. Save video assets to a clip box, and then you and your team can access them anytime. You can share them around, put all the clips you need in one box. That's very handy if you're working on like a documentary or a longer project. And don't forget, they have that huge image library, photos, vectors, icons, infographic templates. Sometimes you need that stuff in your video projects as well, and they've got all that stuff covered too. You can choose between individual clips, or you can buy video packs. If you're like, I'm going to need a lot of video, I want to look at the pack. And you can download clips in HD, or you can buy standard definition, or even web formats. So you're like, this is just going up on a web. No need to get the huge file size. Get the web format. Shutterstock is a complete global offering. They're in Germany, Brazil, Belgium, China, true global marketplace. And they have multilingual customer service. If you're like, Tom, I understand you, but I cannot speak the English, Shutterstock can help you out. Service with dedicated corporate reps and full-time customer support throughout the week. We're finding all kinds of great video here. Jason's kind of tooling around in the search. We're finding pirate stuff. Not pirated video, but video with like the Jolly Roger on it. Stock video of people playing video games. You could spend hours. In fact, I recommend just go try Shutterstock up right now and just start searching for whatever comes into your head, because you can sign up for a free account. They won't even ask for a credit card. Just start that account. Begin searching around in Shutterstock. Help imagine what your next project could be like. And then save those video selections you find to your clip box. If you decide you need to buy stuff, once you decide to purchase, use the offer code FRAMERATE4, and new accounts will receive 30% off any package. That's Shutterstock.com. And for 30% off new accounts, use that offer code FRAMERATE4. Go sign up. Show them support for FrameRate. Say, hey, we heard about Shutterstock Images on FrameRate. We want to try out this cool search engine you guys got. Shutterstock.com. And if you buy, 30% off with FrameRate4. Let's move into the slipstream. So, Hulu. Who knew that they would still be up for sale at this point? Maybe nobody wants to buy them. I don't know.
What a weird thing, right? Because Hulu from the beginning had a problematic nature in that it was almost kind of made, you could tell it was, or it feels like from the outside, like it was almost built to fail. And then they're like, crap, we have a hit on our hands. And we're like, yeah, but I kind of hate it, what it represents. I'm like, why did we make this? We just didn't want people going to YouTube. And now we got this thing that people want and like. And then it's like, and then we hear whispers of, News Corp wants to go one direction. So they want to sell their part to who's the other partner?
Disney.
Disney wants to make everything more free and ad supported. So they want to sell, or they want to sell their part. So it's what's the latest rumor on this?
Well, I guess this is a rumor. Reuters reporting that their sources on the board say that Hulu has approached potential buyers to gauge interest. Now, these are not offers. The offer has a legal meaning that requires certain regulatory stuff, but they're basically going like, are you interested? Do you want to come in? Do you want to look through the books? Do you want to kick the tires? The board sounded out several possible
this is the
buyers.
Equivalent of like somebody's reporting, like, breaking news. Hulu goes out to a date looking totally whored up. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to offer yourself? You trying to make yourself pretty? Why? Wait, what's going on? Why you get wiped that off your face? Hulu, shame on you.
It kind of is, yeah. I remember when Tech TV was at this stage, and it was sort of kind of the feeling of like, hey, we're all dolled up. Here, want to peek into our accounts? Huh?
Yeah.
I just signed right here. Peek into
say a little peekaboo.
Yeah.
Wearing a thong.
That's where Hulu is. So it sounds like there's no obvious agreement for Disney to sell to News Corp or News Corp to sell to Disney. So they're going ahead and saying, well, let's do an internal strategic review. Let's find out who might actually want to buy it. And the problem is, for some reason, 3 million people are subscribing to Hulu Plus, and they are making money, but it's not guaranteed to continue because they don't have long-term deals for the content. And without long-term deals for the content, a buyer could come in, say, sure, I'll buy it. Disney and Fox take their money, go home, and then cancel the deals. And suddenly, well, you bought a lemon. It doesn't have any programming.
Yeah, so I think the chat room just nailed it. In the chat, Dale Poco says, "So Hulu got a tramp stamp? Is that what happens? just trying to gussy up for himself." Yes, that is exactly what happened.
It's finding out it's like that service where you can say anonymously yeah, I'd go for that person, and then if that person has also said anonymously the same thing, then they'll give you the chance to get to know each other.
Is that a service? What is that? Did you just describe like Adult Friend Finder or something?
Yeah, basically. It has the word bang in it. I just don't remember the actual.
Okay, all right. A banging good time. Yeah, all right, let's go on to another story.
YouTube announced a new live streaming video API for game developers. This is a little bit developer-y, but it's going to end up being a good thing for you because it allows more companies to build in live streaming as an option into their video games. So not only pro gamers now in more games and more situations can easily go live on YouTube with streams, but you can as well.
Yeah, this is somebody sent us an email, and I don't know if we got to it before, but suggesting that the fact that Call of Duty Black Ops had or Black Ops 2 had a built-in streaming ability for Twitch.tv, and that accounted for a lot of Twitch's growth. We just saw the announcement with the PlayStation 4 where they were saying, I forget what it was, Ustream. That's right, that you could stream instantly.
They
Ustream,
Gaikai, right?
Right, correct, and they built in, although I think it's a different situation, but yes. Then now we're seeing it with YouTube, and of course, this is the biggest surprise story that we keep talking about is people love watching other people play video games. People also love to show off playing their video games. I think it's smart for them to be aggressive about getting these tools out in people's hands. I wonder if we're going to see fewer and fewer exclusives because we saw Call of Duty was tied into specifically Twitch. The PlayStation 4 is natively straight to Ustream. I wonder if this is just a YouTube saying, hey, man, whatever it is you're doing, why not YouTube as well? It's all there.
Well, YouTube is slowly adding live capabilities, very slowly, right? So they're doing a live stream today. It's April 1st, April Fool's Day. So they got a big April Fool's live stream. They did Felix Baumgartner live stream, 8 million streams, right? They have limited live streams with their partners. And so this is kind of taking another baby step towards that ability to open it up, it feels like, to other people.
But haven't people maybe I just because I'm a partner, I didn't know that I was special, but like on your Google Hangout, you've for several months now been able to just automatically go live.
Hangout live, correct. Right. But that's not the same as like go live on YouTube. It's kind of a workaround. I mean, you can use it for that for sure, but then you're in a Hangout. You can't say, I don't want to do a Hangout. I just want to go live.
And I'm guessing that part of this slow rollout is tackling the thorny issue. Like they did a good job at YouTube of, creating the fingerprinting to tell when copyrighted content is being put up on so they could do takedowns. But for live, that's a whole different, to be able to do that real time, that's a whole new problem. And we've had stories of legitimate live streams. Like there's award ceremonies that get cut off midstream because in the intro to the, as they're about to give the award, they play a clip from the winner, and then all of a sudden it's like it flips the digital fingerprint.
Right, when NASA got pulled down. Yeah,
exactly.
And those of you who don't care, please be tolerant. Don't turn away. Don't fall asleep. Don't be rude, because we're about to make some people very happy. BlackBerry 10 users in the U.S. can now watch TV shows from PBS, Univision, and Viacom.
I'm happy for all 5 of them. They're good on them. No, that's a cheap shot. This is great. More integration, more players, more.
Well, and if you don't know, BlackBerry has made great strides. They have ABC, BBC, CBC, CBS, National Geographic, NBC Universal, Sony, Starz, and 20th Century Fox. They have all the major movie partners, most of the broadcast partners. This is picking up a few of the broadcast partners in the U.S. that they didn't have. So the BlackBerry store is now legit. That was one of the problems when the Playbook first launched is, great, I can play awesome videos and with amazing multitasking, except there's nothing to get in your store. So I think this is great. The only problem is, how do I watch that on my television? This is merely for mobile. It's not in competition yet with Android and iTunes.
You know what I was about to say? I was about to remind you baby steps, but at some point that's just gonna run out of steam, and I'm getting annoyed. You're right. Why isn't it? Let's jump forward. I'm tired of baby steps. I'm ready for giant gallops forward.
Well, one of the ways you could do it is possibly with something like XBMC or DLNA, and those both are elements of tube tops. XBMC coming to the Ouya $99 game console. Mine is shipping to me right now. Anybody who backed the Kickstarter, shipping, you can pre-order one as well. And the way it works, it's a game console, but it's based on Android. So you can download Android apps to it. And one of the Android apps they're featuring is XBMC. In fact, the fine folks at liliputing.com did an excellent video, comprehensive video, showing off XBMC on the Ouya. And at least for this guy who was using pre-release hardware, it worked really well.
It looks really, really nice. This is one of those things where, you know, I don't know. I don't have a read on how well powered the Ouya is. Do you know anything about the hardware under the hood?
The hardware under the hood is I used to know. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's minimal. It's meant to be just enough to run decent games.
Right. Well, and again, because it's targeting at the games level, it makes sense that it has enough horsepower left over in order to be able to run a very, very smooth XBMC experience. It looks fantastic. If you're not watching the video version, then definitely look up the was it lilputing.com article? Is that where it was?
Yeah, LILLIPUTING. He actually has his niece control it. Because he's like, it's supposedly, they've told me it's so easy a child can control it, so I'm having a child control it.
Right on.
And honestly, she doesn't have any problems with it. It's Jelly Bean Android 4.1 with an NVIDIA Tegra 3 system on a chip. That's your internal. So it's a 1.7 gigahertz quad-core ARM.
It's LILI, not you had previously said
did I say two L's?
I
apologize.
Yeah. LILIputing.com.
Only 1 gig of RAM and an ARM chip.
Dude, I'll tell you what, for casual stuff, that's all you need, man. This would be fine. I mean,
and
it's actually
they did
not
a good job of implementing it. That's what that means.
Yeah.
Also, Boxy TV got an update. It's getting DLNA, which is the way everyone who doesn't live entirely within an Apple universe does AirPlay. So you can actually send things from your mobile devices to Boxy. Also, getting 3D streaming of Vudu titles. So if you are a Vudu user, which I know many of you are, and you have a 3D TV, now you can stream 3D from the Boxy.
I don't think it's my imagination. We're hearing a lot more from the Vudu camp, a lot more releases. I think Vudu's doing a good job for their image these days.
Could be just that one guy, though.
Just one guy.
No, Vudu's great, actually. They have a very
like, hey, man, you hear about that Vudu everyone's talking about?
Where Vudu has the advantage. The thing is, Vudu is not like Hulu and Netflix. Vudu is like Amazon Store and Apple iTunes. You buy the stuff or rent the stuff, and its a big advantage is it has excellent looking HD. They've always had that from back when they used to be limited to just a box. You had to buy a Vudu console if you wanted to get their service. They have really good looking stuff.
Right on.
And good for Boxy. Boxy adding some good stuff. Also, some updates to the DVR scheduling. If you are a Boxy user and you've been frustrated maybe by the fact that you had to go to the web to do your scheduling, you don't got to do that anymore.
Dude, we got more reports on the Intel sneak attack, the second coming of the chip maker turned potential disruptive cable company.
Yeah, so Intel is, according to Bloomberg, nearing those deals that we've been talking about for a pay TV service over the internet with News Corp, which owns Fox here in the U.S., and at least having conversations, if not nearing a deal, with Disney and CBS, which Disney owns ABC here.
Yeah, dude, huge. Good. Whatever it is you're planning, Intel, just do it faster. I'm very excited to watch it.
The idea is Intel wants to have enough partners on board for this service to be able to roll it out by the end of this year. And if they're nearing a deal with Fox and in preliminary stages with CBS and ABC, well, then the only one that they have left to get talking to is NBC as far as the big four go. And that covers a lot of cable companies. Don't forget, those four own a lot of the cable networks as well. If they can get those on boards, they're missing Viacom. They're missing Scripps with Home and Garden and Food. And they're missing a handful of others like AMC. But once you get those big names on board, it becomes a lot easier to try to go get the other ones.
Yeah, like Fox alone, you got FX, you got other stuff. Specifically, FX is the one that excites me because they have so many great dramas on that station.
Ericsson is also, according to Bloomberg, in talks to buy Microsoft's IPTV business. Now, I believe, if I remember right, do you remember the old Ultimate TV box that Microsoft put out as a competitor to TiVo like back in 2001?
Yeah, that was one of the first ones that could actually record two different channels simultaneously before
that was one of its
TiVo had
advantages.
Yeah,
I believe that division started making IPTV boxes for people like AT&T and Verizon to be able to switch television through their internet service without being television over the internet. So I, as an internet subscriber to AT&T, couldn't just get the channels, but I could get the service from them. And then they would put this box that was made by Microsoft in my house, and that would allow me to see the channels. Microsoft's getting rid of that, according to this, because they're putting all their chips on Xbox. They're saying,
yes,
you know what? We don't need to be in the business of providing boxes to AT&T anymore. We are going to be the box, and it's going to be the Xbox.
That's a really, really good point. I didn't even think about it from that angle, where it's like they're pretty much just consolidating, where it's like we are firmly internally, is what it appears to be, that they're firmly internally deciding that the Xbox is not just a game console anymore, but it's our foothold in the living room.
Now, in addition to that, Fair9999, did I say all the right nines, in the chat room, points out that this division of Microsoft, which is called Media Room, is the reason, in his opinion, why Xbox was rolled out quickly in Verizon and AT&T to be a set-top box. So do they give something up, or are they basically saying, we got bigger fish to fry than partnering with AT&T and Verizon?
So I understand why Microsoft would want to sell off this division, but Ericsson seems like a weird match for this. I guess they make all kinds of hardware, I assume. I mean, I think of them as, just a telephone company, but I guess
don't forget that they sold their telephone making business back to Sony.
Oh, so they got nothing else to do. They're just hanging around.
I think they've
kicking
something
rocks.
else to do, and they do a lot of other things.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, they're not Sony Ericsson. They're not part of that anymore.
Huh.
Ericsson's a whole different ball of wax. Also, Google TV's Primetime app update now allows you to search Amazon Prime content, which is kind of cool. It means that Amazon Prime content is now indexed by Google into its search service. Up till now, you could get Netflix, HBO Go as part of your search, which would also search Google Play and will search everything that's on your guide if you've connected it to your television service. Pretty cool thing that Google TV does. It's the closest I've ever seen to the search where everything is. But one of the problems was they didn't index all the services. Well, now they've added Amazon. They really just need to add Hulu and Vudu.
Yeah, that was my next question. Yeah, and is this a licensing kind of thing? Like Hulu's going to want to cut of the revenues, or like?
I don't know. Yeah. Remember, Hulu and Google TV got off on the wrong foot. Because Hulu ran on the Chrome browser, and so Hulu had to block Google TV and all of that. So,
that's right.
They have some issues to work through. Those two, they're in therapy. And
the two of them just need to apologize to each other.
And Amazon's a competitor, right? They basically you've got the whole forked version of Android Kindle Fire thing out there, but they're willing to say, look, you know what? What we want is Google TV to be easy to use, and this makes it easier to use. So that won this time. Also, Brian, that Apple television that was supposed to come out
next week.
And then it got delayed, but then it was definitely going to ship in March.
Next week. Definitely next week. They're going to announce it next week.
No, it got delayed again, Brian.
Well, no. You say like but that can't be because Apple never confirmed that there would ever be an Apple TV. Why would I
don't know why that's relevant. But the rumored Apple TV that Apple has never confirmed is actually an actual product got delayed. I'm reading it all over the internet.
And the internet is right about everything. What's the cause for the holdup?
Well, the report in Digitimes makes sense if any of this is true. That the display that Apple would want, a 3840 by 2160 Ultra HD display, sometimes referred to as 4K, is sold out for the year. The television makers have pretty much snapped up all available capacity. And Apple's favored distributor for screens, LG, doesn't have the ability to get high volume production up until next year. And so that's why the analysts are saying, well, we're pretty much sure Apple wants that screen. And we know LG doesn't have the capacity this year. So if any of this is true, it couldn't happen until next year.
Yeah. Huh. Well, what a surprise. The thing that Our elusive Loch Ness monster is just going to be a little bit farther down the horizon. I'm sure she's there. Next week we'll hear something.
Now, here's one that's pretty freaking awesome and true. Antennas Direct. I've known about these guys since way back. They're a great place to search for over-the-air antennas. In fact, we should probably mention them more often on Frame Rate, because if you're a cord cutter, you want to find out about Antennas Direct. I believe they're based either in St. Louis or the St. Louis area, and you can find them at antennasdirect.com. They've been around forever. They wanted to advertise on local charter cable to let people know, just buying it. You can buy ads on cable that just kind of run across a bunch of different channels. They wanted to just buy an ad that said, hey, Antennas Direct, buy your antennas from us. If you want it over there, you can get great HD uncompressed at Antennas Direct. And Charter was like, oh no, that's a competitor, and we're not going to sell you.
But that's like, well, how is it that, like, I'm sure Charter runs ads for Dish Network. I mean, they could buy, or is that a case where they have to buy like national ads in order to
exactly
get in?
Right? If you see Dish advertised on Charter, it's because they bought it from the channel, not from Charter. Charter's never going to sell an ad to Dish, and in a way, I can see why Charter isn't doing this, but Antennas Direct president Richard Schneider told GigaOM, he's like, we thought it was a fairly benign message. Like, hey, you want some better looking TV? Like, we weren't saying cut cable. We were just saying buy an antenna and get more channels. And
right. Well, and plus they could easily say, hey, do you have more televisions than you have the ability to hook up to your cable service? Would you like to be able to watch the game out in your garage where you don't have cable? Then use an antenna. But that's pretty douchey of them to do. This seems like that could be a little bit of blowback on Charter.
Also, Antennas Direct sales tripled last year. Company is expecting to generate close to $15 million in 2013.
I'll tell you what, if anybody listening knows the folks over at Antennas Direct, just seems like a natural fit, man. We're here every day talking about how great it is to cut the cord.
We will not refuse the Antennas Direct ad.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can almost promise you, without talking to Ryan or Chris or Glenn or Lisa, but almost promise you that we wouldn't turn that down.
It seems a natural fit is all I'm saying. Just seems right.
It is. Absolutely. All right. You know what else is a natural fit? Film Found. You know how last week I was complaining, like, we never have any tube top stories anymore. It's never any devices. And you know how this week we got lots of device stories?
Yes. Well, then clearly that means that we must have a whole lot of stories in the film found. So much to talk about when it comes to the content.
Stories, Brian?
Oh, we don't? Because I guess nobody's making anything new or good, apparently.
Actually, we talked about this before the show, and we think it's because so many things premiered this week that nobody really wants to make a lot of announcements about what's coming out this past week, and so that'll probably change. But the one thing we did find out is that Netflix announced a new original series called Sense8. It will not be coming until late 2014. Netflix does tend to announce these things a couple of years before they come out. And it's being developed by the Wachowski siblings. You may know them from The Matrix, perhaps.
Yep.
Or V for Vendetta.
Little show called V for Vendetta, Cloud Atlas, Speed Racer.
They're teaming up with J. Michael Straczynski, creator of one little series called Babylon 5.
So what you're saying is that we're going to have a gorgeous spectacle that nobody will watch, but will hear about for the next decades about how good it was from people who don't understand why it finally went away.
You know, that's interesting because I know you're making a funny about
trying to
Wachowskis and Straczynski. But if that were to happen with Sense8, would Netflix mind?
No, but because that's just it. That's the kind of evangelical thing that you could go for. So this is no talk about budgets or anything, but I mean that's good talent for sure.
Yeah, I don't see anything about budgets, but it is in that House of Cards, Arrested Development, that whole ball of wax there. So I'd be curious to see. I mean, honestly, the Wachowskis, whatever you think about the various things, they've done some amazing stuff.
Well, and they're visual geniuses. I mean, whatever you say about the pacing of Cloud Atlas or of the content of Speed Racer, I mean, it's just gorgeous. They're visual geniuses. You know
who's good at content? Straczynski. So if they divide these responsibilities up right.
When people are going nuts talking about Babylon 5, they're not talking about how great the graphics were in the computer-generated era of 1993. They're talking about the story that was told. So maybe this is the right kind of marriage.
Yeah, it could be. It could go perfectly. Let for one last week at least, let's see what's premiering this week.
Premiering this week! This is what's premiering this week! Check it out!
So the movie Evil Dead, the third version of the movie Evil Dead, comes out this week. Apparently it's awesome, though. Sam Raimi.
Yeah. So I did not realize that it was a Sam Raimi joint. I didn't realize that he was going back to reboot his own movie.
Am I wrong about that? Okay,
No,
now you got me.
I read that. Like, I'm looking at it right now. Hold on, let me actually open it and make sure. Because I can't think of another time.
He's involved. I think he's helping to produce and advising. It's directed by Fede Alvarez.
Yeah, Alvarez.
Yeah.
Okay. But it is the same movie.
Yes,
More
it's
or
not-
less. Yeah.
It's a sequel in the sense that Evil Dead 2 was a sequel, which is they pretended like it happened later, but it's the same story.
Right. Now, what's interesting is from everything I've seen, it's just later. Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead 1 played it full on like scary. Evil Dead 2 introduced that over the top cheesy Sam Raimi-ness, and then of course they just went full crazy with Army of Darkness with the silliness. This is straight up again back to like, no, it's Evil Dead scary again.
And also Mad Men, a 2-hour premiere this Sunday. So I know Brian's not a big Mad Men fan, but I'm pretty excited about that.
Would it be worth it for me to just jump in the middle, like just watch it? Like I don't care.
Why
enough.
not? What do you got to lose? I don't think
Yeah.
it's such a thing. I don't feel like advocating, no, Brian, you have to get into this, seriously get into it, go watch everything. So why
Right.
not just jump in, watch the 2-hour premiere? If it's changed in a way that you like it, you can always go back and catch up. I mean, I don't think that's such a bad thing sometimes.
All right. Well, fine. And we even talked about that study that said, beginning a story when you see a scene from the ending doesn't necessarily ruin anything. So maybe I will.
Finally, you acknowledge my point on that story. How long?
No. What? No. Our disagreement was the conclusion. The conclusion was that spoilers don't ruin anything, which is not what the test measured. What the test measured is, does storytelling by showing a slice of what happens at the end and then beginning the story help or hurt, which is not the same as spoiler.
Exactly. Also, movie draft. We're having it tomorrow night, right?
Yeah, tomorrow night on NSFW. If you want to check out the slate, go to draft.nsfwshow.com. The final 6 have been determined. It's going to be Tom, Justin, Brian, Sarah Lane, Scott Johnson, and who am I spacing on?
Cargill.
Oh, Tom.
Cargill?
Oh, Cargill. Yes, Cargill.
Yeah.
Massa Worm himself. And let me tell you, man, everybody is taking it crazy seriously this year. If you're paying attention to the numbers, we have one more movie than we had in previous drafts. So I guess that'll adjust the average price that you're going to pay for a movie down a little bit because we're going to need to spread the movie slightly farther.
But the last couple drafts, it seems like we've had stuff left over at the end.
Yes,
So
yes.
a
Well,
lot
that's
of
why you
people
see
have.
that massive inflation of
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
just throws all the money they have at the end. This is an amazing year. So many wild cards, so many stuff where it's like I look at it and I'm like, could be freaking huge or it could be a total flop. And a lot of big movies right at the beginning. We got Oblivion's the first movie, Iron Man 3, Great Gatsby. I don't see any way that's not going to make at least 60 to 80 million, probably 100 plus. Star Trek Into Darkness is going to be huge. Fast and Furious 6. That's what saved me from being in a bad place 2 years ago is when I bought Fast 5. Hangover Part 3 was what almost won things for Sarah, right? Because she got the Hangover cheap, that Part 2 a while ago. Now You See Me After Earth has a lot of buzz. Of course, Man of Steel. Monsters University is going to be a slam dunk. World War Z, they've been promoting the hell out of way early on. Despicable Me 2 is going to be a slam dunk. Grown Ups was a huge, somebody got Grown Ups for I think $12 3 years ago, and then it ended up making like a bajillion dollars. So a lot of interesting, and of course the Wolverine as well.
It's a flat market. So it's really going to matter what you get. It's not, there's no like, well, I'm going to get a strategy of building up a lot of things, or I'm just going to go for the tent pole. It's not that kind of market this time. Like
No.
you have to pick the right movies.
It's agreed. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a fun one. And I now realize how little research I've done on all of these and what I'm doing with my day all day tomorrow.
Same here, actually. I still got to do I got to crunch some numbers.
Yes.
Got to talk to I had a consulting session with Eileen yesterday. and she marked out some of her advice. So
you want to talk about what we're watching?
Yeah, that's what I was. You took the words right out of my mouth. What we're watching? No, you put them back.
I gave them to you, and then they came out. See, that's why you heard your voice saying what we're watching, is because I stole them and I threw them to the sky.
Oh. What are you watching besides BioShock Infinite?
Yes, although I do want to say real quick, we talked about this for like 25 minutes in This Week in Tech yesterday. Real quick, I mean, are you going to play BioShock Infinite, Tom?
I was not going to play it because I've bought way too many games and I don't have time to play them. But apparently, I should not have bought any of those, and I should have bought this instead.
It owes a great debt to the Dark Tower, just as BioShock 1 owed a great debt to Fallout. Just I'm not beyond that. I'll do nothing else. I'm just putting it out there. Just lower the difficulty and just play through for the story, because it was
sell this on Gazelle and I'll be fine.
The ending was literally jaw dropping. Like, there's these moments. There was two of them where I was just like, "Shut up!" Just mind blown moments. It was really great.
All right.
I did watch Doctor Who. You want to talk about that in spoiler zone if we got time?
Yeah.
Yep. Game of Thrones. Talk about that in spoiler zone.
Oh yeah. All right. Good. And this next is great.
This week was the week that a bunch of the Cartoon Network content got put on. So now first season of Venture Brothers is available on Netflix. First season of Adventure Time. First season of Regular Show. Whole bunch of really, really great shows. I'm bummed that it's only the first season, but man, is it so much easier just to have that just on off to the side. I'm just going to plow through that season real quick and get into it. So now you got no excuse. If you got Netflix and everybody hearing me talk nonstop about Regular Show, just watch the first 2 or 3 episodes of Regular Show.
I'm going to take you up on that because I've finished my Futurama marathon and I'm looking for a Netflix Vice to get into. It's perfect timing. Definitely going to do. Orphan Black came to the BBC America, that is. Aired right after Doctor Who on Saturday. I watched it yesterday. Not a bad first effort. Pretty intriguing. Pretty interesting. It's the one we talked about with the girl who finds out that there's a bunch of other girls that look like her.
Oh, yes. See, I'll tell you what I want. What's not available. People keep saying, how come you guys aren't talking about Black Mirror yet? And the answer is because there's no legal way we could watch it in the United States, and it's driving me nuts.
There's also just a limited amount of time. I mean, I'm still watching Archer, which still continues to just floor me with how amazing it is every week. And I'm still watching Arrow, which doesn't floor me with how amazing it is, but it's still very good. I also watched the season finale of Walking Dead.
Okay.
My wife, Eileen, said
Dr.
it was great.
Tom.
She loved it. I said, I'm disappointed.
Really?
So and my recommendation to you, Brian Brushwood, is don't catch up.
Wow! That's amazing. I would not have expected that at all. Even as a marathon session, you don't think it's worth it for given my frustrations to jump back in?
No, and it got this close to being that. In fact, I was almost ready to say yes, catch up, because there were a couple of really good episodes this season. But I wanted to make sure that you would be able to marathon it through and be happy. And I don't think you will be happy with the end.
Okay, well, here's what I'll do then. I will, when it comes back for next season, I will get caught up by the time next season. But it'll have to be in a burst because I'm excited about the next one on there. That's crazy.
And just why, non-spoilery reason why, I expected something to be resolved that wasn't, and I expected us to move on into a new story area that I don't feel we really have. I feel like they're treading water a little. There was one unexpected thing that happened that I know a lot of people are shocked about, that I was like, okay, yeah, that, and there were a couple of there's a great moment with Carl, great moment with Michonne. There's some really good stuff in this finale, but I ended up just not feeling excited at the end. And if I don't feel that way, then I can't in good conscience tell you to catch up.
Interesting. Well, even though that's all code that went right over my head, I will take your advice, Dr. Tom. And if you got a problem with it at home, then write us at framerateshow@gmail.com.
There are plenty of people who disagree with me. In fact, Eileen disagrees with me. So I get why. And perhaps your reasons can persuade Brian otherwise, and that's fine. But I just can't make that recommendation.
You want to talk a little bit of feedback?
Let's do.
Now it's time for feedback with Brian and Tom on
Christopher.
Hopping. Oh, dude, we were playing feedback chicken. We were both waiting for the other one to go, and then we both finally like, well, I guess I'll go. And then we both said,
we hit that, and we're like, the note's done. Christopher, go ahead. Take it.
Yeah, Christopher writes us saying, hey, Brian and Tom, I've recently moved and had to change my cable company. In typical cable bundle fashion, I now receive the premium channels, HBO, Showtime, Stars, etc., for free the next 6 months. I decided to use this opportunity to catch up on Game of Thrones, and I've not been disappointed. Good on you, man. I've become accustomed to watching Game of Thrones at my own pace, and with the new season starting, I realize I'm now going to start doing appointment television like old media wants me to do, and I really want to rebel against that standard. So my query to you is, should I wait for the season to be finished or watch the show when I want and how I want to watch it? Or should I watch the story as old media wants me to? Here's what I've noticed. And this is Christopher from Portland. I gave up twice on Lost and then came back to it three times. I guess I started once and then came back to it twice. And every time it was the same thing. When I was watching Lost, just plowing right through, loved it. And then when I switched to week over week, it wasn't enough, and I hated it, and I gave up. I'm like, I'm done. And then I get caught up, and then I quit again, and then finally, I wrote out the end of it there when I thought it, really good, and for all of its ending flaws, I still thought it was great. So the question is Game of Thrones a Lost type experience? And I don't think it is. I think that is it a Lost or is it a Walking Dead type thing? I'm going to say Game of Thrones, you should go week after week. It's certainly at the top of my appointment viewing. Like, and we'll talk about this in the spoiler zone. But I just turned to Justin and I was like, I am utterly amazed that we live in a world where this kind of television show could even get made. Like, just for
I mean, that honestly is the kind of decision only you can make. When you watch an episode and you decide, can I wait until the end of the season to watch them all at once, or do I have to watch it next week? I mean, that's not something we can tell you, but I can tell you my opinion. And what I do for myself is I watch it every week because I think, like Brian, that it's so good that I don't want to wait. And I can also do a marathon of it, which I did over this weekend because they were showing it again, and enjoy it just as much the second time through.
Yeah. We also got, and I'm going to actually let you, Derek Chan wrote in a giant, awesome, long email. Did you get a chance to read that?
I did, yeah. It's Derek is very prolific sometimes, and it's a good email. We'll put it up on the show notes. We are getting show notes up, I think, so hopefully it'll be in there. But basically, he's saying that advertisers really do look for the giant audience first because there's two different kinds of advertising. There's direct response, which that's where what Brian was talking about last week about going for a reaction sometimes is helpful because it allows for a better direct response. But there's also branding ads. And branding ads just want to get that message into as many people's heads as possible. So sometimes they just want a bulk audience.
I love the fact that he drew that distinction because I think that's why you and I weren't seeing eye to eye on it, because I come from a background, as an entertainer, I built my career on direct marketing and mailing, where it's like I'd send out 3,000 targeted physical mailers that had an explanation of what my show was and why you should book me for your event. So I don't think in terms of like Kleenex wants to throw $4 million just so people in general slightly know it better than Puffs, which is, I think, my disconnect on why I was like, well, why should you worry about how many eyeballs? All you care about is if the right people are doing it. But I thought Derek did a good job of explaining all that, and we thank you for sending that in, Derek.
Finally, Rob in Victoria, British Columbia says, another example Brian is looking for just popped into my head when I finished episode 117. Charlie Ross does one-man Star Wars as well as one-man Lord of the Rings. He has an okay from Lucas to do Star Wars, but was in a legal battle with the Tolkien family for a long time over the right to do Lord of the Rings. He now can do it, but he has weird stipulations. I can't remember all the details about the situation, but he has some info. You might want to be able to try to get him on the show. That's a great example because it shows two ways of approaching it. One is, I got the permission, I'm not going to worry about it, from Lucas. Right. The other is, I have the right to do this, but I have an extraordinarily historically litigious intellectual property holder, the Tolkien estate, who's going to come after me anyway.
Well, and what I love about it is that it's two examples in one, like you pointed out. Like the fact that he had permission from Lucas, like that didn't count. That wasn't part of my thought experiment. But the second one definitely is, because there's no doubt that one guy doing a performance word for word with interpretations of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, is definitely parodical. It's a parody, right? It's like there's moments of laughter that were not in there. The joke is you're watching one guy relive the entire movie experience for you, and it is transformative and it is parody, so he could get away with it. But it sounds like even though he did, I'm going to say hide behind parody, but he used parody as his defense. It still was a big fat mess to get through, which I found
but
really
that's the thing. That's the sucky thing about fair use. It doesn't matter how right you are.
Right.
The litigant can turn it into a big fat mess. And that goes back to that stuff we were talking about with Viacom dragging YouTube still to this day, years later. And now Ario's going to have to go through the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to do a spoiler zone for Doctor Who and Game of Thrones. So which one should we do first? So people
let's
know.
start with Doctor Who. We'll start with Doctor Who.
Okay, so we'll start with Doctor Who. Those who only want Game of Thrones, you'll have to fast forward a little bit to get past the Doctor Who stuff. Our apologies. We'll try to make it pretty obvious. And then those who don't want to be spoiled on either one of them, thank you for watching. You can always find us on the web at twit.tv/FR. You can email us, framerateshow@twit.tv. And you can find us live if you want to join in the chat room. Be one of those people like Theater Monkey who says, yes, all shows from number 54 through last week have up-to-date show notes. Thank you, Theater Monkey. You are the best. You rock. We are live every Monday, 3:30 p.m. Pacific, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time at live.twit.tv. We'll see you either in the spoiler zone or next week, or both.
Silent breed is people!
I wish I had a TARDIS that I could just hold up so people would know.
So the visual listeners, okay, the visual listeners, I just called them. All right, so here's what I thought was interesting. First of all, you should know.
I listened with my eyes.
My daughter became obsessed. Once she saw the Christmas special, she was like, that was her big discovery of Doctor Who, and she watched them all on Netflix until she watched someone with like creepy dolls or whatever. That's just too scary for her. And then all of a sudden she was done with Doctor Who, wasn't watching. But it was really sweet to get her to watch this one with us. Not the deepest story from as far as the bad guy goes, but I thought it was really adorable, and maybe you could correct me on this. Because there's a mystery about this companion, this seems like the story with the whole Amy Pond companion thing was it's a girl who wanted to run away and travel. This is essentially a romance. He's having to woo her. We're seeing the Doctor dating, which maybe somebody else will correct me, and we have seen this before, but I can't remember a Doctor Who where that was a persistent storyline.
Rose Tyler. I mean, there was definitely an aspect of that.
Right,
but it wasn't as I agree with you. It was not as overt.
Right. Well, and Christopher Eccleston wasn't flummoxed and intimidated by Rose.
David Tennant wasn't either, but David Tennant was also smitten, and a version of David Tennant's Doctor ends up living with Rose in an alternate reality, right?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, well then maybe because those are the ones I need to get caught up on is the David Tennant years. I watched all the Eccleston and I've watched most of the Matt Smith. So I stand corrected on that, but I definitely am enjoying the dynamic. Love the new TARDIS design. I can't get enough of it.
It's certainly not wrong. It's not that it's never happened. In fact, even in the older Doctors, there was always an element of romance, especially with Sarah Jane Smith because she was saucy. But it was never as overt as this. This is incredibly flirty and sometimes almost uncomfortably brotherly sisterly.
Yeah.
It seems.
Well, and again, it's that flummoxed Matt Smith Doctor that really struck me. I was like, I can't remember this dynamic before, and I'm excited to see where they go with it. And I love the fact that now that the picking up of a companion is sort of a known trope in this series, and that we're familiar with it, especially since the reboot. The fact that she says nope at the end was pretty great. I'm smitten with this companion. I think she's fantastic.
Well, for, Martha Jones, who you also have, I don't think you've seen that season then, ends up there, but she doesn't start there. So that's, again, it's not that anything Clara's doing we haven't seen in a companion before, but she's doing it much differently or to a greater degree. Did you watch the Christmas special, The Snowman?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so the villain, I don't know if you noticed, but the villain at the end of this one is the same villain from The Snowman.
You know why I didn't notice? Because it's a different actor with a different voice. It most certainly was not Ian McKellen. And because that was Ian McKellen's voice in the Christmas special. Yeah.
Wait, no, the guy who's walking around, who was the young boy who the snowman manipulates.
Oh no! I was thinking of the Great Intelligence because
that is the Great Intelligence. They're both the Great Intelligence.
Okay, all right, got it. Well, regardless,
so
it's like
face, right? The human face of the guy who's walking through the snowman. That's the face you see in the screen.
Got it. Yes. Okay. Well, then if I had watched it more recently, then maybe that would have been easy. But it was one of those moments I could tell like, oh, I'm supposed to get this, and then it's like apparently I wasn't watching close enough, so it didn't snap. I was like, that's a thing I'm supposed to get. Thanks.
Oh, so people in the chat room are disputing me, so maybe I'm wrong. But it is the Great Intelligence, either way,
yes.
Which is the same villain. So that's obviously building, right? That's going to be a part of the story arc. Then we have this whole story arc about Clara and how has she existed in two other forms, and yet she doesn't have any idea about it, but she still says the same thing sometimes. And that's incredibly intriguing because there's something more to her than just being a companion, right? There's something special. But I have to agree with Wired. Wired sort of picked on the storyline here. They're like, it was a great episode. Clara was great. Matt Smith was great. You know, Jenna Louise Coleman as Clara was fantastic. But the storyline we've seen before a lot. And in fact, it was a little bit like, hey, check out how modern we are because the villain's now Wi-Fi.
Well, and plus also, it's like, look, if you're going to pick something, let's pick up. When's the last time you worried about finding Wi-Fi? It's like now it's all on my cell phone. I don't worry. But like maybe 6 years ago in 2006, this would have been a great story because we all had that shared experience of nonstop, like, I got to get on to get this thing out or whatever.
That's the problem, right? 6 years ago, the villain was the Bluetooth headset. Everyone's walking around with the Bluetooth headset, and that's how the Cybermen get us. And then before that, it was cell phones. Everybody's on cell phones all the time. You know, it's just like, okay, so the thing that's ubiquitous that everybody's using is evil.
Yes. Fine.
That doesn't ruin it for me, but that seems like more of a middle of the run of episodes plot rather than an opener plot.
No, see, well, okay, here's what I would hope, right? So they got this thing they're trying to set up. And so they got this essentially what looks like a monster of the week that turns out to be, you know, there's going to be a long running gag. If what you really want to do is tell a story, have the focus of the story be the doctor and I don't know whether to call her Oswin or what, then I could see, you know, you got a bunch of note cards with different villain ideas that you've had in the writer's room. Maybe you take one of the weaker ideas and throw it in there on there. Like I was happy enough with the character development that it didn't bother me that it was a weak bad guy.
Also, I'm just really excited that Clara's good. In fact, she may be one of my favorites. It's too early to tell, but I'm liking her a lot as a companion right out the gate. And we are going to see Billy Piper and David Tennant in the 50th anniversary special that's coming in November.
I'm excited. I kind of don't want to know nothing about it. I just want to see and have it be a surprise.
I would have to say, though, for you to really appreciate it, you're going to have to go catch up on those episodes.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think that'll happen, but maybe I'll go watch a few of them. I'll see them.
Because otherwise, it's just not going to have the impact that it would have if you knew that storyline. Right. Let's talk about Game of Thrones, shall we? Like somehow we give.
Let's just do this. There you go. There you go. Like this.
Here, right.
Go dragon breath.
Here,
like,
here we go.
All right, that was a weird enough thing that they'll hopefully stop at it.
So kind of disappointing, huh?
What? Are you crazy?
Yes, I am crazy.
Okay, I will say. All right, let me go in reverse. Let's say the least awesome part of everything. Okay, the least awesome moment was the ending. The fact that Sir Barristan, showed up. You're like, it's me, the guy you would only recognize because you remembered to watch the previously on Game of Thrones part. You know, it's
actually, that's exactly how Eileen reacted.
Remember, I was in the background and I had to cut out that guy's tongue. Now I serve Daenerys. So,
yeah. See, but I love that scene in the book, so maybe that colored my appreciation because I didn't have that reaction, but Eileen absolutely did. She's like, "Who the hell's that?" I'm like, "Oh, yes." And tell me he was in the previously. She's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't pay attention."
Yes, exactly. But again, if that is okay, dude, there's so many. I just love the fact that they're taking the long game on this. The fact that like it's hard for me. Like not a lot happened, but we saw Daenerys experience the Unsullied, which I dug, and I really liked the scene where where the subtitles told a very different story from what was happening from Daenerys' perspective, right?
I
And
actually
he's
don't
talking
remember, and I specifically haven't looked it up. Does she not speak the language? Doesn't she know what he's saying?
Well, she's in his very foreign land. Remember, she's from Westeros, and
No,
she
but I
learned
think she knows this. I may be totally wrong about this. I think she knows, and I think she's holding on to that card. She plays it later.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. But they do a good job of really establishing just how badass the Unsullied are, and of her wrestling with like, well, you know, I don't do slaves, but I mean, I guess I could buy slaves. Which this is double spoilers. Having read the book, very excited for what they've set up for a scene that I think we all thought was pretty rad from the books later with the Unsullied. Like, it's good that they spent as much time with essentially, you know, her buying a used car as the scene goes for what the payoff will be when that happens.
Oh, yeah. No, I thought the same thing. And as much as you're right that not a lot happened to propel the story forward, and should be an action-packed season, at the same time, 35 minutes in, I looked up and was like, oh my gosh, we're more than half over. It just flew by.
Absolutely. Wait, was there no boobs? I think there was no.
Oh yeah, no, there were. Yeah, it was with Braun Sellsword.
Yeah. Okay. I guess. Oh yeah, there was. Loved the way they handled the giant. Like, just right, just big enough. I mean, it looked like a giant man, not a cartoon CG extravaganza. Exactly the way I pictured it in the book.
Also, I thought about you because we were talking about last season, the whole nose thing with Tyrion. Did you like or did you not like Cersei making a reference to, I heard your whole nose got cut off, but I see it's not that bad?
You know what? I didn't didn't piece that together as being a deliberate thing. Like, in general, I'm pretty happy with what they did. There's certain things you can't get away with on television. Everybody's automatically made a billion times prettier because if you're in a visual medium, you have to make people want to watch it. So everybody's cleaner than they ought to be, and everybody's prettier than they ought to be. But within those rules, that they did a good job of disfiguring Tyrion enough that it's like, yeah, I can understand why people would treat him really badly because, you know, and call him a freak because he looks enough
felt like that. I felt the way you're saying last year. And then this year when I was catching up again and rewatching the old episodes, and they'd had the episode where he wakes up and he's like, I'm a monster. I'm like, no, he's not. And you know what? They have to look pretty stuff is BS. This is HBO. They don't shy away from this stuff. Take off his freaking nose. Make him a monster. He will be all the more charming because of it. That's what Game of Thrones is about. It's about grit. It's about dirt. Go real. I totally changed my mind. And then there was that scene where she's like, I heard your nose cut off, but I guess it's not that bad. I was like, now they've won me back. And I'm like, okay, fine. They actually acknowledged it and worked it in that it's totally like still a thing. And I'm fine with it now.
Continuing to love hating Joffrey. I'm enjoying watching Marjorie Tyrell's machinations at work.
We get to see Grandma next week.
We get to see what?
Grandma Tyrell.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Man, I can't think of anything else that really jumped out at me, but just felt good to be there, man. The opening credit sequence. I thought it was cool that they showed Winterfell's all burned out because he got sacked. And
Astapor.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me a bit. I have heard. Okay, now this might be book spoilery, so I'll hold off on saying it. But I heard that there is a character that vanished last season or had a bad end, and in the books, it's like a long, long time till he pops up again, and you just assume he died because it's been 2 books since you've seen him. But that character in this, I've been told, will have a presence in the next seasons. So that'll be an interesting change. Do you know who I'm talking about? It rhymes with leak.
Oh, what? Okay.
I'm talking in code here. The guy.
Yeah, and I can't respond in code because I didn't realize that character was gone yet.
Well, we saw in the books. In the books, there we can't. Too much code. Somebody.
Yeah. We'll have to talk.
Basically, the actor who plays that guy. If you read the books and you picked up what I'm talking about, the actor who plays that guy is. It's in the news that he's going to be in the next seasons. Whereas, like that character was not in a couple of books, and you were left to think he must have died or something, and then you find out what he's been up to.
Yeah, no, I know exactly who you're talking about, but I didn't think we'd got to the point where that would be a weird thing yet.
Well, because we already had. Don't you remember the way?
I'm gonna get that one.
Okay, all right. too much code. All right.
Speaking high in there.
Still enthusiasm at an all-time high. Super, super happy. Congratulations, HBO. You have truly won our hearts.
All right. Well, thank you for sticking around for the spoiler zone. Thanks to Chad Johnson for donating a little bit of his prep time from OMG Craft so that we could do this. And we will be back next time. See you then.